Hello, this is Januarius Asongu, the author and host, and welcome to the Splendor of Truth. Today we are going to look at Chapter 2, Critical Synthetic Realism, How Knowledge Actually Works. What if most of what we call knowledge isn't actually knowledge? And what if the real problem is not that we don't know, but that we don't know how we know? Welcome back. In the last video, we explored the birth of the critical mind, why thinking matters. Today, we go deeper. We ask a more difficult question. What is knowledge itself? This is the focus of Chapter 2 of the Splendor of Truth, a critical philosophy of knowledge and global agency. We are living in a strange intellectual moment. On the one side, we have relativism, which posits that there is no objective truth, only perspective. On the other side, we have dogmatism, which posits that we already have truth and no need to question it. Both of these are dangerous. Relativism leads us to confusion, instability, and loss of meaning. Meanwhile, dogmatism leads us to rigidity, intolerance, and intellectual stagnation. So the question is there a way to affirm truth without becoming arrogant about it? This is where I introduce my new philosophical framework, Critical Synthetic Realism, CSR. Critical Synthetic Realism is my attempt to answer the fundamental problem. How do we know truth in a world of uncertainty? And to build this framework, I draw from multiple philosophical traditions because no single tradition is sufficient. CSR is not a rejection, it is synthesis. To understand CSR, that is critical synthetic realism, we need to briefly walk through the history of philosophy. Let's begin with classical philosophy, the birth of truth, Plato and Aristotle. The Greeks asked the first fundamental question: what is real? Plato emphasized eternal truths, a reality beyond appearances. Aristotle grounded truth in observation and logic. Truth is when the mind corresponds to reality. This idea becomes foundational. Then comes the scholastics. Scholasticism during the medieval period has Aquinas building a bridge between faith and reason. He defines truth as the adequation of intellect and reality. This becomes a core influence on critical synthetic realism because it affirms truth is objective and discoverable. The Enlightenment, the rise of the thinking subject. This is where you find philosophers like Descartes, Locke, and Kant. They shift the focus from reality to the mind. For Descartes, certainty begins with thought. For Locke, knowledge comes from experience. For Kant, the mind shapes how we perceive reality. This introduces a crucial problem. How do we know reality? And if the mind is always involved, then comes modern philosophy with science and skepticism. We get positivism, which says that that only science produces knowledge. I should add that while CSR affirms the importance of science, we reject scienticism, which says that only science produces knowledge. Then there is phenomenology, which focuses on experience, and then analytical philosophy that focuses on language. Each of these is not completely wrong, but we think they're only partially true. Each contributes something, but also fragments knowledge. Postmodernism, the collapse of truth. Finally, postmodernism says truth is constructed, knowledge is power, reality is interpretation. And this leads to the crisis we see today, that of the epistemic fracture. Now, one of the most important influences on CSR is Karl Popper. Popper introduces a powerful idea. Knowledge grows through falsification. In simple terms, we don't prove things true, we test them and eliminate what is false. This leads to critical insight. Knowledge is always provisional. So in the book, you hear us talk about the provisional nature of knowledge. We move closer to the truth or to truth, but never fully arrive it. This is this becomes central to CSR. CSR, we should add, is different from CSR, which is critical synthetic realism, is different from critical realism, especially the version of Basquiat. And we are going to look at that separately. However, we should add that CSR is also influenced by non-Western traditions like African philosophy and Asian traditions. From African thought, we come to understand relational knowing, communal truth, the importance of context. From Asia, we focus on balance, harmony, and the limits of rigid categories. These traditions remind us that truth is not always abstract, it is lived and relational. This brings us to the 5 pillars of CSR. From all these influences, critical synthetic realism emerges with 5 core pillars. The first is metaphysical realism, which says reality exists independently of us. The second is epistemic pluralism. Truth requires correspondence, which is reality, and coherence, which is logic. The third, critical rationalism. Knowledge must be tested and corrected. That's where the proper influence comes in. And finally, fourth, we have ideological distinction. Truth must not be confused with comfort, usefulness, or ideology. And finally, epistemic humility, the fifth pillar. We can know, but never completely. Why does critical synthetic realism matters? It does something powerful. It allows us to say truth exists, but we must approach it responsibly. It protects us from relativism, which claims that nothing is true, but also from dogmatism, which gives the impression that we know everything. And it gives us a way to think clearly, act effectively, and build better systems. The key insight of CSR can be summarized in one line. Knowledge is not possession, it is a process of questioning, testing, and refining. And that process is what keeps us aligned with reality. In the next video, we take this framework and apply it to one of the most important issues of our time: knowledge in the age of artificial intelligence. We will ask, can machines know truth, or are they just processing patterns? And what does that mean for humanity? If you want to understand the future of knowledge, you don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.